1 Cs. Edmund Blair, Leighton. 1. Subject matter, the biggest clue. Leighton almost always painted romanticized medieval or Renaissance scenes, especially koan nights, ladies, and courtly romance, chivalric moments, farewells, vows, meetings, proposals, quiet, emotional storytelling rather than action. Idealized versions of the Middle Ages, clean, elegant, dreamy. Common themes: cologne. Love, loyalty, honor, a single emotional moment frozen in time. If it looks like a storybook medieval scene, there's a good chance it's Leighton. 2. Figures and faces. His figures are very recognizable, graceful. Idealized people, almost no ugly or rough faces. Women often have pale, smooth skin. Soft, calm expressions, long flowing hair. Men look noble and composed rather than aggressive. The emotions are subtle, longing, tenderness, quiet sadness, not dramatic exaggeration. 3. Clothing and detail. Leighton was extremely precise. Highly detailed medieval clothing, flowing, fabrics with careful folds, embroidery, armor, and jewelry painted with realism but elegance. Nothing looks messy or rushed. Everything is polished. 4. Color palette. Typical Leighton colors: cologne. Soft reds, creams, blues, golds, and whites. Muted, harmonious tones, rarely harsh or extremely dark. Light that feels gentle and romantic. Not dramatic or harsh, the palette supports mood rather than dominating the scene. 5. Composition and mood. Clean, balanced compositions. Often a central pair of figures. Backgrounds are realistic, but not overly busy. The mood feels calm. Nostalgic. Romantic. Slightly idealized, unreal. You often feel like you're looking at a moment from a poem or legend. 6. Painting style. Very smooth brushwork. You don't usually see heavy strokes. Closing parenthesis. Academic realism. Clear outlines and careful anatomy. Almost photographic clarity, but softened by romantic atmosphere. How to tell him apart from similar artists. Leighton is often confused with artists like Waterhouse or Alma, but Cologne. Waterhouse is more mythological and looser with paint. Alma focuses on classical antiquity, Rome, Greece, not medieval romance. Leighton stays storybook medieval plus romantic restraint. Quick checklist. If a painting has cologne. Medieval romance, elegant, idealized figures, subtle emotion, smooth academic realism, gentle romantic mood. 2 and D. Vincent Van Gogh. 1. Brushstrokes, the strongest giveaway. Van Gogh's paint is thick, visible, and energetic. Cologne. Short, swirling, or directional strokes. Paint often applied impasto, thick enough to catch light. You can almost feel the movement of his hand. If the brushstrokes look emotional and restless, that's classic Van Gogh. 2. Color use. Van Gogh did not aim for realistic color, extremely bold, saturated colors, strong contrasts, yellow versus blue, orange versus blue, colors used to express feeling, not accuracy. Examples: cologne. Yellow skies. Blue faces or green shadows. Intense blues and blazing yellows side by side. 3. Movement everywhere. Nothing feels still. Skies swirl. Fields ripple. Trees twist. Even buildings seem alive. This sense of motion is one of his signatures. 4. Outlines and shapes. Objects often outlined with darker or contrasting colors, forms, are simplified and slightly distorted. Perspective may feel off or tilted. He cared more about expression than correctness. 5. Emotional intensity. Van Gogh's paintings feel cologne. Intense. Urgent. Personal. Sometimes anxious. Sometimes joyful. Often both. They don't feel decorative or romantic. They feel raw and human. 6. Common subjects. He repeatedly painted sunflowers, wheat fields, olive trees. Night skies, his own bedroom. Self-portraits. Rural villages. Seeing the same subject painted multiple times is also very Van Gogh. 7. Light and texture. Light often glows rather than shines. Thick paint creates real texture and shadow. Surfaces look carved out of paint. If the surface looks almost sculpted, that's a big clue. Quick recognition test. Ask yourself, can I clearly see the brushstrokes? Do the colors feel emotional rather than realistic? Does the scene feel alive or vibrating? If yes to all three, gives very likely. Van Gogh. One sentence summary. Van Gogh paints feelings with color and movement, not reality. Third, Claude Monet. First impression. Literally, Monet cared about the overall visual impression, not detail. Forms look soft or slightly blurred. Edges dissolve into light and color. You understand the scene instantly. But details are vague. If it feels like a glance rather than a story, that's Monet. 2. Light is the subject. For Monet. Light matters more than objects. Same scene, painted at different times of day or seasons. Shadows are colorful blue, purple, pink, not black. Sunlight feels atmospheric, not dramatic. You're often aware of air, haze, and reflection. 3. Us hent shokes. Short. Broken strokes, dabs, and flicks of paint. Brushstrokes stay visible but are lighter and calmer than Van Gogh. They blend in your eye, not on the canvas. 4. Color palette. Bright but gentle colors. Lots of blues, greens, lilacs, soft yellows. Little to no black. Monet avoided it. Colors sit next to each other rather than being mixed heavily. Matter. Monet painted everyday outdoor scenes. Gardens and flowers, water lilies and ponds, rivers, lakes and reflections, bridges, boats, haystacks. City scenes with mist. London series. No drama, no mythology, no narrative, just what the eye sees. 6. Repetition in series. A huge Monet clue. Same subject painted over and over. Changes are in light, color, and atmosphere, not composition. Examples. Haystacks. Rouen. Cathedral. Water lilies. Poplars. 7. Mood. Monet feels. Calm. Observational. Peaceful. Detached from emotion. Unlike Van Gogh, Monet doesn't show inner turmoil. He shows how light behaves. How to tell Monet apart from Van Gogh. Quick. Monet equals soft, shimmering, observational. Van Gogh equals thick, swirling, emotional. If the scene feels like it's quietly breathing, it's Monet. One sentence summary. Monet paints light as it appears in a moment, not objects as they are. 4th. John Everett Millais. 1. Style and movement. Key figure in the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. Early works. Hyper-realistic. Highly detailed, symbolic. Later works. More conventional Victorian painting, but still carefully composed. 2. Brushwork and technique. Extremely smooth. Precise brushwork in early works. Every leaf, flower, or ripple of water is clearly defined. Later works become slightly looser, but retain clarity. Tip. Unlike Van Gogh's expressive strokes, Millais is controlled and meticulous. 3. Color palette. Bright, clean, jewel-like colors. Little to no black or muddy tones. White ground enhances luminosity. 4. Subject matter. Literary and historical subjects. Shakespeare, Ophelia. Medieval legends, poetic, or moral themes. Scenes often poetic, melancholic, or moralistic. 5. Figures and faces. Pale, idealized faces. Calm or serious expressions. Sometimes melancholic. Anatomy is accurate but slightly stiff in early works. 6. Nature and background. Plants, flowers, and landscapes are botanically accurate. Backgrounds often as important as the figures. Water, leaves, and flora painted with scientific care. 7. Mood. Earnest, poetic, sometimes melancholic. Quiet intensity, not dramatic action. Emotional restraint, unlike Van Gogh or Leighton. Quick recognition checklist. Extremely sharp, detailed realism? Bright, clean colors without black? Nature painted from life? Literary, poetic, or narrative scene? 5th, Pablo Picasso. 1. Periods to know. Picasso's style evolved in phases, each has its own clues. Blue period 1901-1904. Dominated by blue and blue-green tones. Melancholic. Often sad subjects, beggars, the poor, mournful figures. Elongated, sorrowful figures. Mood. Deep sadness. Loneliness. Rose period 1904-1906. Warm pink, orange, and earthy tones. Circus performers. Harlequins, acrobats. Softer, more romantic than blue period. Mood. Gentle, poetic. African Protocubism 1907-1909. Inspired by African art masks and Iberian sculpture. Figures simplified into geometric forms. Faces sometimes angular or mask-like. Cubism 1909-1919. Forms broken into geometric shapes. Multiple perspectives shown simultaneously. Monochromatic or muted palettes early. Analytical cubism. Later, synthetic cubism introduces brighter colors and collaged textures. Neoclassical and Surrealist periods, 1917 to 1930s. Closing parentheses. Mix of classical figures with distorted proportions. Surrealist experiments, dreamlike, imaginative forms. Late Expressionist works, 1940s, 1970s. Bold, expressive line drawings. Playful, exaggerated portraits. Vibrant colors, often simplified forms. 2. Key features across periods. Abstract, geometric, or distorted forms, especially faces and bodies. Bold, expressive lines in drawings and paintings. Use of color for emotion. Not realism. Multiple viewpoints or flattened perspective, especially cubism. 3. Subjects. Portraits, especially of friends, lovers, and himself. Figures and nudes. Still lifes. Guitars, bottles, chairs. Closing parenthesis. Bulls, horses, minotaurs. Circus performers and harlequins. Rose period. 4. Mood and expression. Highly emotional, sometimes melancholic, sometimes playful. Intentionally distorted or abstracted reality. Expresses inner psychology rather than outward appearance. 5. Recognition tips. Ask: is the figure abstracted or geometric? Are colors chosen for mood rather than reality? Does the painting seem experimental or distorted?